And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another review of the new HBO Max, Warner Brother Discovery. I'm trying to think of everybody humanly possible that has something to do with the show. PlayStation Studios show, The Last of Us. And here we are on episode 2. I'm here with my guy, Terrell. What's going on, sir?
Hey, what's going on? Still don't have the names of the episodes as of yet. No,
Hey, look. This excuse us. We're seeing these off of screeners, so we're doing this early. And for us, episode 2 is literally named episode 2. So I don't know if that's something they're going to keep. Possibly there's something they're going to keep by not trying to give away too much with the titles, because
right.
even with screeners, normally they give us names of these episodes. But here they just like, nah, you get episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and so on and so forth. But let's jump directly into episode 2 as we open up in Indonesia. And
2003.
we end 2003, and we open up what seems to be with Patient Zero. What did you think about just this cold open to a show where they kind of take us back in time, take us back to a city that was mentioned in the first episode of something happening there, and then they bring us there to show us exactly what happened there, exactly what's going on with this mysterious patient and with this fungal infection that, by all means, I cannot pronounce this fungal infection at all.
Um,
But
it's yeah. The name of the actual infection is the cordyceps infection, which is of course a fungal infection which infects the brain and takes over the body.
yeah, it's literally in non video game, non HBO series world. It's called the killer fungus. That's literally the name of it. If you put this name in any form of Google and you look it up, it's literally something going on right now with it where it is controlling ants' bodies and making ants
Yeah,
kill.
it's a real thing.
So yeah, this is actually a real fungus that's going around here. But what did you think about this opening and them going back to 2003 to show us, and even the advice of the doctor of there is no cure, there's no way to contain it. Bomb everything.
Kill them
That's the only
all.
way you can contain this. What do you think about that?
Go make peace with my family. This is another thing that is obviously not in the game. This is for the show here. We get a little bit of we get a little bit more, like you said, of the backstory and like you said, Patient
Mhm.
Zero of where we think this virus has started. And through the game, like we really just hear like stuff over the radio, like in that first episode, where it's just
Mhm.
like, all right, we think this was going on, we hear stuff on the news, but there's never like an actual origin point because everything just goes left really freaking fast.
Yeah.
Um, and we get this doctor here that they just pick up out of the middle of nowhere while she's having lunch. Like, look, we need you to go check this out real quick, and we get to see exactly how the fungus is spread completely throughout the body through a bite, which was disgusting,
Mhm.
by the way. I really wish they hadn't shown so much detail with that. Yeah. And you can see like the fungus in the body still kind of growing, which is like I said, like this cordyceps virus, like infection, it mutates the body. As the longer you have it, the more it mutates the body. Um, but her decision was not
Mhm.
wrong, because there was no way that clearly, 20 years later, we're still dealing with it. There was no way, no
Mhm.
cure, and pretty much put everybody in one area and just straight bomb them. Like,
Hey, as was told to us in the first episode by the first doctor on that television show,
yeah,
like, there's nothing you can do with a fungus. We normally use fungus to cure ourselves of viruses and illnesses. So if
mhm.
a fungus decides to turn and do something completely what we would consider out of the norm to the human body, there's literally nothing you could do about it. Even here, when I want her name is Ira. I think I'm saying her name right. Even when she's examining the body and the body is dead, but she notices the fungus is still alive,
Hmm.
that's when it freaked her out and basically saying just bomb everything humanly possible.
Right, and that's what they were saying in the first episode on the TV show, was pretty much like you're being puppeteered basically
Hmm.
by the fungus, by the infection. Like I said, it takes over the brain, and you're pretty much like you're dead, but it's controlling you. Like
So
it's
right after that, we get the next big thing is just back to Tess, Joel, and Ellie, as this is where the discussion happens that they kind of hinted to at the end of episode 1, but it happens here, which is one, she's been bitten, but she's not infected. What do we do about it? Down to Ellie telling a secret that she was told to not tell at all, which is like, we need to get her to this outpost
Right.
so they can examine her, basically, so they can use whatever it is that makes her not be infected and try to spread it worldwide. Now, here is, I'm guessing this is something that happens in the game, because if it didn't, it would make no sense, because I would assume Ellie is the same way in the game that she is in this show. Just what did you think about this play off of it? If it didn't happen this way in the game, but it happens this way in the show, did you like the way they built upon finding out what Ellie was, that she was bitten, and what possible secret she holds?
Yeah, like I said, you definitely still get this scene. I mean, it's kind of modded a little bit on some of that. Obviously, we're not watching them eating sandwiches and stuff like that in the game, and stuff like that. But they do reveal that, of course, the mission was to get her from point A to point B, and that she was going to be the one to save everybody. And of course, Joel, being cynical as he is, has heard this before. It's 20 years later. You would think they probably try to figure this out 1,000 times over. And he's not even trying to see it, even though it's right in front of him. Like he has the girl right there. She's clearly showing him evidence like she's not. But of course, they just met the girl like within like the last 2 days, so there's no way to really prove that she is in fact not infected with this virus, because they think it's over a course of time that it takes over your body. Like I said, this pretty much almost scene for scene from that moment goes, it follows the game exactly. The whole conversation with Joel, Tess, and Ellie, and then them going through their journey to where they get to later in the episode. So, like I said, they did a really good job of pretty much mirroring all of that, while adding a few extra things to it, for time.
I'm about to say, because then we get to the I want to say journey part of the episode,
Right.
of them attempting, after they decide that, we're just going to get her this place, because in the end, as Tess said, and I think we pointed out episode 1, we are not good people.
No.
We are only doing this because it benefits us to do this. And then we get the journey to try to get Ellie to this other outpost. Now, this part of the episode is a slower part of the episode. Just what are your thoughts about the way this is going to have to play out? Because I'm assuming these moments are going to happen constantly throughout this series, because it happens a couple of times in this episode alone. Do you think the show moves well when this happens, and when they kind of take away the action and you're left with just the performances of the actors?
Yeah, I think they do a very good job of the pacing, especially like I said, again, comparing this to the game where like you're walking and talking, like there's conversation that is in between you moving from point A to point B, and they definitely capture, like I said, that whole thing where they're like moving through like the water. They're trying to navigate, a lot of The Last of Us is trying to open barricaded doors from like the other side without like making a bunch of noise, which was something that I noticed they did, where they had Tess go up and around and slide open the door. They said they're not trying to make noise to alert the infected. And I thought, like I said, a lot of the transitional conversation and trying to build a lot of the conversation between Tess and Ellie and Joel before the inevitable happens later in the episode. They do a really good job of giving us a little bit more than what they originally gave us in the game, in the first game anyway.
So again, they taken from another game, because that sounds a lot like Metal Gear Solid. Sneak around and not alert the people that you were there. Like, man, look, eventually someone's going to tell me why this game is so groundbreaking that we got to show from it, because I am just pinpointing things that the game just stole from other places. I just steal the best elements of other things and put it in this, and y'all was like, man.
I feel like with Metal Gear though, like you have two options. You can go about it stealthy, or you can just go in there and blast everybody. I mean, obviously going in there blasting is not the way you're supposed to play the game.
Because then 100 people come after you.
Right.
Kind of sounds familiar.
You can kill everybody and progress, but it just makes your journey a lot more difficult. Same here with this, is that they want to try to get from point A to point B without blasting off like they did here with the gun, which is something that you really don't see in the game. They want to try to use everything else that's not guns, a last resort, and I feel like they used the guns a lot more here, maybe because they were in a kind of a panicky situation where they kind of
Yeah.
had to. But you see a lot more gameplay here than you probably would in the game where they would carry around like a hammer or like a bat or something like that to try to take them out as silently as possible, without alerting, as you see the other infected in the episode.
Now, here they do a great job of something that I haven't seen on anything else, and that is the rules of this fungus.
Mm.
And for them to bring up, hey, it grows underground. Also, it's like a connected network. So you can touch and step on a fungus in one area, and it will alert the infected in another area, and they will come directly to that area. Like normally we see that with noises between the infected on other different things, but here with the fungus being a living thing, and that's the way that it can communicate to the other people or the other infected, like this is a danger here, or this is something we need to attack. I thought that was great. Now take away the game aspect of it. How did you feel the show set that up, and did it set it up in a way that it can intrigue audiences who've never seen the game to wonder, like, wow, what's going on with this fungus?
Right. Yeah. I think they did a really good job there too. Because like from what we see for the most part is they really react. They can't see. They react to sound. So if you notice, like they're when they're sneaking around, like they try to keep the conversations low, stuff like that, because like they like every zombie thing, everything like that, they react to sound. But they give you a little bit more detail, like you said, with the fungus and stuff growing underground. And like I said, as you get further into it, you'll start to see like parts of the game where parts of the game where they have to put on like gas masks because you can clearly see like the spores in the air, and like you breathe that in, you're done. It's the same thing as like if you got bit or whatever. Same situation. But like I said, they give you a little bit more detail, like you said, on the rules. Like we see the fungus growing in the ground. And you see that in episode 1 where they're burning the bodies. Now you see why they're burning the bodies, because the fungus continues to grow. So yeah, I definitely appreciate more and more detail as to why they're doing what they're doing, or why the infection acts the way it does.
So right after this, we get something that you got overly excited about that I didn't know what the hell it meant, and you said we get our first clicker. Are these different versions of people that's infected?
Yes.
Because here, when we get them going through the museum, and we get these two things that look like fungus is coming out of their face completely. So these are different than the other ones. Please explain to me and the audience listening, who probably are like me, some of them that don't know anything about this, what the heck is the difference between the infected I've seen already versus the clickers that we saw in this episode?
So like what we've seen already were infected in like pretty much like the base form, like pretty much just like you see they still kind of have their human appearance. And like I said earlier, like the longer you're affected, the more your body mutates from the infection. So you see some like their brains like expand and almost kind of have like a mouth on their heads, stuff like that. And like some of them make a clicking sound like with their tongue to communicate with like the other one, stuff like that. They're pretty much like the clickers are pretty much the guards to like the other infected there. Once you hear them make like a loud noise, you pretty much need to get out of there because they're going to alert everybody else that's there. And you'll see that in the game too, where they'll say, hey, we need to take out the clickers first, because if we don't, like they'll pretty much alert everybody else that's in the area, and you get a little bit of here. They're also super hard to kill because they have like kind of like a reinforced thing. So
yeah, as you can clearly tell with their head, that it
right.
felt like it was reinforced. That's why it took so many bullets to take them out. But so is that what Ellie heard at the beginning when she was like, "What's that noise?" And you hear the clicking, but you saw Joel and Tess respond like, "We're not going to worry about that right now."
Yeah, because Ellie, at this point, Ellie hasn't had that much experience seeing them because she was kind of raised in like a camp. So it's like outside of her initial like her first sight when she got bitten originally, and she hasn't seen anything else, so she doesn't know the different types of infected that there are in the world. Obviously, Tess and Joel do because they've been around for a while, so they've seen a little bit of everything. So
okay, so now that we got through that, next thing we get up is possibly the biggest moment of the episode here. After they end up going 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 or 2-on-3 with these clickers, we get them calming down where they realize Ellie has been bit again, and here with Tess telling Joel, take the win as a win, or as the kids say with the memes on Instagram that I see when it's like, a win is a win.
Right.
I don't care. A win is a win. And she's like, take it as a win. Like everything doesn't have to be end of the world.
Right.
And we realize she only said that because she got bit and she's now infected. Where do you think this will take the show at? Not necessarily where it took the game at, but where do you think this is going to take the show moving forward? Now that Tess has been infected, we see the way she sacrificed herself to save them after being infected, and even the way we saw the way the virus moved, the fungus moved, how they killed one and then Joel shot him in his head, and then the fungus wrapped around the guy to alert everyone else. What are just all your
I
thoughts on
I
those
thought that was
moments in this
probably
episode?
more so the I don't know if the fungus did that or it was just more so the noise of the gun itself. But like you said, I mean, like you said, that might be a new rule that they've established in the show with the fungus like growing in the ground, alerting, stuff like that. Because they really don't get into any of that in the game. But I was waiting for this moment the entire time. Like I knew this was going to happen. I was wondering if this was going to be something that they changed and Tess was actually going to stay alive, and that clearly was not the case. And everything pretty much went down the same way, except that whole alerting scene and that weird tongue kissing infected scene. Like
Hey, I am super confused about. I
that was
wanted to
not a
know,
thing.
like, wait
Yeah,
a
I'm not
minute,
sure.
is it does that because she was already infected?
Yeah,
Like, why,
yeah, she was dead either
why
way.
did she need to be tongued down by the fungus? I would have assumed
I, I'm
that
not sure why they
when
added
you're
that, but yeah,
yeah,
like you
because
said,
when
they
you're infected, I'm assuming it's like vampires or uh any other zombie thing.
yeah,
Like the thing knows you're infected already. You're no longer a threat to it because it knows it's about to take you over anyway. Here, he just decided to do a fungal tongue down for no apparent reason. Or maybe it's just to
yeah,
show the way the fungus moves.
yeah.
I'm just confused about that scene altogether. Why that had to happen.
Yeah, that's a good question. But as far as like where it goes next, I mean, obviously I know what they're gonna do since they're I mean it's already a pre-written script here. But like
Or you may know, but hey,
this,
I
yeah,
said
this
we're
this
going to
could
get to
put
the point, yeah, where you're going to start getting curveballs thrown at you
right.
because
That's
they're
what I'm saying.
not
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
want to go exactly by the game.
I think this might be the point where they might start hitting lefts, and they might change up a few things. But a lot of this journey is obviously the interactions of people that they meet out in the world outside of where they Boston, outside of
Mhm.
Boston, and
Yeah.
this fight or flight, survival mode that everybody is now
Mhm.
in, and what you're gonna do to stay alive. So like you said,
Nah.
I'm I'm hoping to be surprised. I mean, if they make a few changes, I wouldn't mind. But I mean, I feel like the story as it is pretty well written. Um, and obviously, like I said, with a lot more backstory that they can do with the Indonesia scene and
Mhm.
some of the stuff, the conversations that we can now have that we didn't get before. I feel like we could definitely get more of a fleshed out story with this, and it still makes me question if this is going to be a multiple season thing or if it's one and done. You know what I mean? Because
Hey, what happened to Abby shows up in the third
yeah,
episode?
she's alive. She should be. She's as there's no. There could be a scene where they walk past her or something like that. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
look,
Because
I know nothing about this character. I just
yeah,
looked it up online and saw how much people hated this character, and I'm like,
and,
hey,
and
what
you know
happened
what's
to this
weird now?
shows up?
People have completely changed their minds about that now. Like after like everything is said and done, after the smoke cleared, I think once people kind of like got over like what happens at the beginning of that sequel, they start to like, okay, I can see why this is going the reason why it's going. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
but
okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if we do see her in this series because her character and her dad is a big part of this first part.
Mm. So now, do you appreciate the flashbacks that we're possibly going to continue to get here? Because this is the last part that we got to talk about. Because at this point, we've talked about everything with this
Yeah,
episode. But
yeah,
do you
yeah.
appreciate the flashbacks you got here?
This is TV format. Like I said that last
Mm.
time with the game, it's stop and go. So like we gotta you gotta change this up. And like you said, surprise us. What's the point of watching it if we already know what we're getting? If we're pretty much just cloning what we've already played through and what we already seen, and
Yeah.
there's no point of even making this in the first place. If you
would
can't
say
take this opportunity to expand upon the story that was already thing, or and change up a little bit, then what would be the point? I probably wouldn't even watch it. But like, so far so good. I'm loving, like you said, the patient zero scenes. I'm loving more of the conversation. I'm loving more explanation of the infected itself, other than that's just what it is type scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, so far they've been doing a good job of just really, I don't want to use the word embellish, but giving us more than what we got before in that 200-hour game. So it's not
So
200.
I was possibly so far. The series so far is geared way more to people who played the game.
Okay.
Like, as somebody from outside looking in, I'm hopeful that the show picks up, not necessarily in pacing, but in
You want more action?
story.
Okay.
No, in story in general. Like, I don't feel like I'm getting enough story. I love the flashback scene, because the flashback scenes are necessary, because in the end you still have to explain what the heck this thing is and what's going on here.
Right.
It felt like with the first episode that it was given to you and it was like, okay, if you know the game, you're going to appreciate this. If you don't, you're just going to be lost for a minute. At the beginning of this episode, they gave you the flashback. I love the rules that they set in place of, like, this is the way the fungus moves. This is the things you need to know. And now I think it just needs more explanation on who Ellie is. And then that may be enough for me to really invest in this series. But again, with the time frames fluctuating in this series and how long these episodes are fluctuating in this series, there's no telling how they plan on telling this story to get you more intrigued in it. But again, at least it's a promising start. Granted, it is reminding me of other shows that I thought the exact same thing of.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to hold out hope that maybe it does something to surprise everyone, not just people who haven't seen it or played the game, but also people who played the game, because I think that's important to keep you intrigued in it. Because without that, as you said, what's the point? Y'all played this thing for 200 hours, and some of you played it multiple times.
Oh yeah,
for 200 hours. So you already know ins and outs how this story works. So it's going to be a detriment to them if they decide just to go down the path of telling that exact same story instead of venturing off and give you something a little different, but still remaining faithful to the game. So, sir, what are your last thoughts on episode 2 of The Last of Us?
Last of Us episode 2, right? I really like the thing they do where Ellie is like, "Hey, can I get a gun?" And they keep talking about it. It's like, "Hey, I'd be more helpful if I can get a gun." That's a thing that's like a big part of like the game. Like, Ellie does not get a gun at all throughout the game, like, because, like, one, they don't trust her. Two, they don't know, they don't really show her how to handle it. You don't see it till like later on in this first part of The Last of Us. But I really like that they took the time to put that into the show as well, because that is like a big part of the game as well. But like I said, overall, I mean, we get to see, like you said, the beginning, kind of the beginning of it all, the relationship and the last of Test, unfortunately. And I think they did a really good job, PlayStation, and obviously, having a big part of like what goes into this. They did a really good job of like showing us more of this world of The Last of Us.
Yeah, I feel like they should have just played End of the Road as Tess blew up the building. Just a final tribute.
Yeah, I wish they kind of would have cut that scene a little bit, but other than that, like, I went on a little long.
It's just the kissing scene. The kissing scene just throws everything off.
Yeah.
When he was walking up to her, I'm like, all right, what is he going to try to eat her? And then when he opened his mouth and she willfully allowed it to happen, I said, okay, nope. This makes no sense. But it's a cool scene again to show you how the fungus moves,
right?
And possibly the way the fungus feels it needs to take control of the human body. But hey, we're never here nor there. We are just at this point looking forward to episode 3. So this has been another review of The Last of Us on Big Old Belt. So please check us out every Sunday after the episode airs. Click subscribe. I'm not gonna say to smash that like, but that's
like a
not me
YouTuber,
at all.
right? Click, yeah, no,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Nah, not at all. I don't care what you do with the like button. In all honesty,
At
do
least
whatever
drop a
you do.
comment below. Let us know what you
Yeah,
thought about it.
just comment. Let us know what you think about this
Yeah.
episode. Let us know what you think about our perspective. I mean, Terrell is the guy who's played this game a multitude of times. I have
Yeah.
never even
2013.
heard.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of this game. By 2013, I had stopped playing video games altogether. So I've never even heard of this game before. But again, drop a comment. Let us know what you think about our review and this show. Peace, people.
See you.